Hello dear crypto friends, and welcome to today's video in which we are going to talk about whale manipulation, or in other words, why is Bitcoin not rising? Why is crypto not rising despite the dollar index dropping and despite the Nasdaq pumping? Didn't we say all the time that Bitcoin is positively correlated to the Nasdaq and anti-correlated to the dollar index? And now the dollar index is really dumping as we said it would many weeks ago, and the Nasdaq is pumping as we also said, yet Bitcoin is not doing anything. What the hell is going on? We can see here the weekly chart in the dollar index. Those two weekly candles certainly don't look like just an intermediary correction and that we are just continuing to pump afterwards, but they look quite brutal and certainly more akin to, I would say, a longer lasting correction that could potentially drag on for many months, which should make Bitcoin pump. Right? And then we look at the Nasdaq and we see the Nasdaq is having a really nice weekly green candle. In the last video we said that Nasdaq is making some kind of falling wedge structure, right? And we had a really nice bullish divergence, lower lows in the price and at the same time higher lows in the RSI. So a really nice bullish divergence. We got a clear break out of this falling wedge structure. So Bitcoin should be pumping. But why isn't it? Look at this lazy guy here, how it's hanging around like Nasdaq is pumping and Bitcoin is like, what the hell, Bitcoin? What are you doing? You should be pumping. Now let us compare it with the Nasdaq, right? Let us overlay the Nasdaq in the daily chart and try to find patterns. Now look, this is the Nasdaq in orange and Bitcoin in the candlestick chart, right? We overlay it and we try to understand why now this is that Nasdaq has started pumping and Bitcoin just does nothing, right? Even pretends as if it was dumping, this crazy bastard. Even pretends as if it was wanting to dump. Well, I can tell you the reason for this, friends. It's actually a pretty simple reason. First of all, let us see that this pattern here that Bitcoin is doing right now is eerily similar to this pattern here, which it was doing for quite a few months after this insane drop here from 60,000 down to 29,000. Then Bitcoin was just wobbling around for 2 months. And if we zoom in, what did Bitcoin do in that time? Hilariously, right? It just pretended every time that it's making a new low. So it makes a low and then it pretends, oh, now I'm making a new low. No, it bounces. Now I'm making a new low. No, it bounces. But now I'm certainly making a new low. No, bounce again. But now, no, bounce again. And then in the end, it really makes almost a new low and then actually it starts pumping. So it looks all the time super bearish and the sentiment is extremely bearish. And I remember the sentiment here was really bearish and nobody thought that we would get a pump, right? It was like, okay, look at this. I mean, look at the structure here. Everybody was thinking that this thing is going lower. Everybody was thinking that, but instead it was pumping. And yet at the same time, if we compare this to the Nasdaq, look what happened. So the Nasdaq in orange made its peak almost at the same time, or precisely at the same time actually, when Bitcoin had its top here, right? Here the Nasdaq had a top. And then the Nasdaq started dumping and Bitcoin also started dumping around a similar time. Even the low here we can identify with this low, and this peak we can almost identify with this peak. So here there was a very strong correlation between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq. And then what happens? The Nasdaq recovers, starts pumping, makes new highs. Actually, if you look at this, the Nasdaq was going on to make new highs. Here already it went above the previous all-time high, continues pumping, and what does the a-hole Bitcoin do? Weird stuff, and doesn't pump at all. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, bam, Bitcoin goes completely crazy. Now what is that, friends? What kind of behavior is that? That is right. That is whale manipulation. Whale manipulation. So the whales know exactly, hey, look, the Nasdaq is pumping like crazy. This is clear that Bitcoin will go up. It's only a matter of time until Bitcoin will go up. But what do the whales do? They pretend that Bitcoin is super weak, for people, for retail investors that are new to the market, to create panic. Because the average retail investor doesn't know about the correlation between the Nasdaq and Bitcoin, and he just sees this here, he zooms in, he sees this here, and he thinks, what the hell, this looks really bad. I mean, this looks as if Bitcoin would just continue dropping even more, right? And then he thinks, okay, let's sell. Let's sell. But what happens then? Pew! Of course it goes up. Why? Because all the time the Nasdaq was going up like crazy, and there's just no chance whatsoever that Bitcoin goes into a bear market while the Nasdaq goes on a rampage. There's no chance whatsoever. And the whales know that. The whales know that. So what do? They manipulate the market in order to create panic and in order to make insane profits. Now, how do they do profits with this strategy? Well, friends, they create insane short positions. They go leveraged short, like really leveraged short, and then they dump every time into the market. Bow, bow, bow. So that every time they create a lot of fear in the market, so that Bitcoin is going down. It seems as if it's going down, and the retail investors panic sell. So they are leveraged short, and with a portion of their money, they just dump from time to time into the market, like dump. All the while they are leveraged short with another portion of their huge funds. And believe me, those guys have huge funds. We are talking hundreds of millions of dollars, if not sometimes over $1 billion. So they do this, they create insane panic, the market goes lower, all the while they are profiting from their insane leverage shorts, but all the while the Nasdaq is pumping. You can expand this spring only until a certain point. Bitcoin is like a spring. You extend it for too long and it gets like, the counter force is insane, and then you cannot hold it anymore, and like, pew, off it goes. And what do? So at this point, then they say, okay guys, I think we have overstretched the market. We have made fun of the newbies. We have made insane profits all the way down here. We have made insane profits with our leveraged short positions. We close the shorts. We make insane gains. Yeah, sure, they have maybe lost a bit of money because they now have to rebuy every time when they dumped the market. They now have to rebuy at a slightly higher price. But this is a lot lower, which they lose by this, than they make with insane gains, insane profits from those leveraged short positions. So at some point, and that is here, they say, okay, we have made profits, nice gains. We are exiting our short positions. We are closing our short positions with huge gains. We are rebuying our coins in the market, and that rebuying then initiates this huge spike here, bam. And what happens? Like everyone is FOMOing, wow, what's happening? Suddenly it's rising, let's FOMO in. And the retail investor is buying this rally, while all the while the whales are laughing their asses off because they knew that Bitcoin would be rising, because all the time the Nasdaq was rising like crazy. Of course, Bitcoin will not fall and go into a bear market while the Nasdaq is rising like crazy. So that is the strategy of the whales. And that is exactly what happened from May 2021 until July 2021. For 2 months, the whales played this game and probably made insane gains while leverage shorting the market. So now they are doing the same game, right? They are doing the same game. The Nasdaq will now, with a very high likelihood, pump for a few, at least, even if you say that this is a bounce, even if you say, okay, this is not sustainable, this is a bounce and the Nasdaq will go lower. But yet still, all this time here, the Nasdaq is rising, and those guys are just pretending that Bitcoin will go lower, and then what happens? At some point Bitcoin will bounce like crazy. Out of nowhere, they will do the same game again. They are just leveraged short, and at some point they will say, let's close our short positions with insane gains, let's rebuy back our coins. Then they create this insane pump, and then they make crazy amounts of money with that strategy. All the while that poor average retail investor thinks, oh damn, this looks really bad. Look, this is certainly going lower. This will now drop down to the MA200 to 20,000, maybe even to the MA290 at 17,000. This will be super bad. Yet of course this never happens because the Nasdaq is rallying like crazy and the whales know exactly that Bitcoin will not go to the MA200 or MA290 at 17k or 20k while the Nasdaq is pumping like a crazy maniac. So I think the same thing will happen as in May 2021. We are wobbling around. It might look a few times very convincingly so, as if we would be going down, and then suddenly out of nowhere Bitcoin will reverse and go onto a crazy run. That is what I think, and that is how whales are playing this market and how whales are manipulating the market. So we will have to just see if the Nasdaq will indeed continue pumping. And for reasons that I explained a few times now, I indeed think that the Nasdaq will do one last big pump until the end of 2022 or early 2023, until we get into the actual bear market. And the whales will play the games that they played here already, so they will indeed again pretend that Bitcoin will go lower, and then suddenly Bitcoin goes on a crazy rampage out of nowhere and goes over 100k. That is my current picture, and that is why I believe that Bitcoin has this weird behavior, because there are now big boys in the market. There are big players in the market with a lot of funds, and they know how to manipulate the market with leveraged short positions and how to create panic in the market, and they make insane gains with this stupid strategy. That is unfortunately how the market works right now. I've seen it so many times in the 9 years in Bitcoin markets. I've seen so many times this kind of manipulation, but of course it's gotten a lot worse in the last years because of leveraged short and long trading positions. And now you have futures, you have the CME futures options and whatnot. So it's getting, of course, more and more manipulated. That is how whales are playing you and me. They have played me many times, but that is why we have this channel here, so that we can talk about how those whales are trying to steal our coins away, but not with us. No, not with us, because we can see through these stupid a-hole-ish strategies of the whales, right? That is why we have this channel here, so that we can understand these strategies and I can warn you about what the whales are playing. If you found this video useful or helpful, or the information nice, I would be happy if you would subscribe to this channel. I would welcome you in this small illustrious round of very smart crypto enthusiasts, and we would journey this journey together on Bitcoin's inevitable path to $1 million per Bitcoin. $1 million. Thanks for watching, friends. Have a nice day and see you in the next video. Bye.